Hello.
Hi.
See, it said recording in progress. I
Yay.
made it. Oh my God, dude, the devastation of like having a recording and then having a paper transcript. Well, not paper, but devastating. Well, now that I've freshly traumatized you, so we can talk about our topic today, how did it go? Did you get to?
I got through my Netflix. I don't know what's going on with it. I couldn't get in. It was like buffeting. So then I decided to view the YouTube that you sent me. I got about three-fourths the way through it. So it was just the background details. But then I quickly popped over to another creator and kind of got the bullet points. So I think I'm pretty well versed to discuss what we're going to discuss.
Talking about
So,
what everybody's talking about right now.
yes.
Maternal Instinct, which weirdly came out on my birthday, June
Hmm.
12th, baby. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't care who's watching. Um, the poor victim of this crime, her name was Reagan Simmons Hancock. She was only 21 when her life was taken from her. I personally was pregnant with my daughter at the same time, and she was born on November 4th, which is also Reagan's birthday. She should have turned 22 that day. She should have been having her baby girl Braxlin that day, or whatever, but she should have been with her children and her husband, and she was so young. Not that this shouldn't have happened at any other time or age or my God. It's disgusting. And look, I'm gonna preface this with as I was watching it, I had a pretty rough upbringing and childhood and traumas, and I've done my share of stupid things. Okay, look, like not to get into like a whole thing, but when you're young and you just get caught in a lie and then you don't want to get caught in the lie and you just spiral out of control and you don't know what you're doing or how to get out of it, or you're trying to just come through unscathed, maybe. I don't know. Like there was like a portion of that before I realized actually what the story was. I had heard of the story when it happened because my husband, I was about 8 months pregnant when this happened, or 9 months actually. I had given birth on November the 4th, but this happened on October 9th. So just as I was entering my ninth month and I'm getting ready for another baby, like, we're still in the height of the pandemic right here at this time. My husband couldn't go with me to the doctor's appointments like he used to. Um, I remember this is when you could just start going back into Target and shopping. So I do remember being in Target, and I remember leaving and my husband being like, please be careful because of this incident. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of a bad bitch though. I'll throw some elbows. Not I'm not demeaning poor Reagan at all. I feel bad saying that. I'm just saying like that was my response to him, like I'll street fight a bitch, but that's me. Um, so this whole situation, it really hit home for me, and not realizing what the documentary I was watching actually was about because I didn't correlate the two. Um, my first impression watching, I knew something was wrong, but I'm thinking like, is this lady like, you know, did she do something to her own child? Or
Right.
I never ever thought as I'm starting this documentary, like, holy crap, she murdered an innocent woman and stole a baby. That's not the thought I had. But when they're taking her out of the car, I'm like, why isn't she bleeding? Like my very first thing was like, something's wrong. Um, she should be covered in blood and she should be covered in, amniotic fluid.
Right.
And, just her initial demeanor of like, I wouldn't have been trying, I wouldn't have called 911 like, hey, I got a cop behind me. I would have been like, shit, a cop got me. I'm pulling over and being like, get the squad here. My kid just came out in my pants, whatever. Like, if you actually had this baby.
Right.
The second thing before, again, I realized where this was going was as they're in the hospital room and they're talking to her, I'm like, I, I had two emergency C-sections. Like I was down bad. Like I could barely move. And I kept my kids with me. Like I was out of it most of the time. But I kept those kids did not leave my sight. I could not imagine being her, being in that room if this was her child, and then them saying, "Well, this isn't your baby." Shit, I would have been ripping my way out of that bed like, "You better give me my kid."
Mhm.
And just
Exactly.
her lack of emotions toward that baby, I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then quickly I realized what was going on. So, I just want to start and just once more just talk about Reagan, which she was 21 and she had met this nutcase through she had been her wedding photographer, which was like a bombshell they dropped in the middle of this like this documentary was like it had it all. It,
Hmm.
it was like murder, lies,
The
faking a
relationship.
pregnancy, buying stuff, buying homes, buying whatever. Seeing her, like some of the information about her when she was younger, I could see parallels. She was a heavy set girl. She had had a weight loss surgery and she had lost some weight. She was very pretty. And I could see just as the guy that she met. Look, that guy was a dumbass. I feel bad for him, like on the surface, but it was like so many people came out of everywhere
Right.
and were just like, hey, something's wrong. And
Mhm.
at some point, you have to say, hmm, maybe something's wrong. Maybe my mother is not lying to me. Maybe all these people coming out of everywhere are not lying to me. Um, I guess I kind of just hopped and skipped and jumped there. So I had I had something to, tell a more cohesive story. So I guess maybe start at the beginning, but I was furious
Oh, yeah.
and just heartbroken for this family and for obviously entertainment purposes allegedly, except for this bitch Taylor Parker who definitely was convicted and definitely is on death row, had her appeal overturned by the Supreme Court of the United States. So fuck that bitch. Fuck her. And to hear poor I to hear Reagan's mother making that 911 call crushed my soul.
Yes.
On top of all the cruelness and everything, her mother finds her. God. I mean just a pile on pile on pile of indignity and injustice.
And then Reagan's eldest
And
daughter,
the little baby girl hiding in the bedroom. She heard everything.
was there any, I didn't get to that part. Well, was there anything that came out? It's like that should be like child endangerment. It was any more
Well,
charges with that?
they threw the book at that woman. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that there's a civil matter pending,
Right.
which there's some other, like Annie Elise was an excellent resource for me on this one.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love her.
Close to her.
I'll have to make sure I link her story. I mean, she's been doing this way longer than us, but you know, this is our mother aspect of we've lived some shit.
Mhm.
Okay, let me start. This the setup for this is shortly after arriving in a small rural East Texas community, Taylor Parker made an impression among everybody she met. She had claimed to come from oil money in the River bottoms. Now, I'd also heard that she had also claimed having money from a different source that was not oil related. It's like you have what do they call those duck people?
Oh, the
That
Dynasty.
yes, the Duck Dynasty. I mean, I can understand where, people, even in Ohio, I knew somebody that had oil rights. Like, it's
Hmm.
pretty common. I can understand exactly why, if somebody said this, that they were like, oh, you probably do. It's pretty common.
Right.
Not overly common, but you
It's
throw a rock, you might
possible.
hit somebody that knows somebody.
Right. Right. Okay.
So I didn't even think that was, questionable at all. And I could see immediately, like, meh, whatever. So she starts talking about she's owed this money, and she she had a glow up. She lost some weight. She's out there looking cute. She meets this guy at a rodeo. His name is Wade Griffin, and by trade he's a hog trapper, which I'm not really sure what that is, but I don't know if he goes out and kills wild boars or I don't really know too much about what he does for a living. I'm going to be honest. I'm a city girl, but I married a hillbilly country boy. So I should ask him, but I'm not going to. So within a 3-month period of time, she had met this man in July. By October, she was moving in with him. Again, can't judge. I met my husband in February. By May, we were like, we're out of here. We're moving. By
Mhm.
November, we were married. I mean, like, I get it, but I was 38 when that happened. So
Right.
I wasn't, I believe she was 25 when this started or
Sounds about
26.
right. Yeah.
Now,
So early
Reagan,
mid 20s.
yeah, and look, I'm not trying to defend her in any way whatsoever, but a lot of this I chalk up to young, immature, stupid, probably some kind of a mental illness, maybe some kind of an abandonment issue, maybe even an abuse issue. Again, don't want to go telling my own story, but I sure never tried to hurt anybody or kill them.
Right. Oh,
Um,
so can we just expand on that just for a second? So, uh, when we're talking about could be allegedly maybe a mental illness, I just see that there's a lot of like correlations with these enabling people,
yes, nobody told this chick no.
right? So she really did able to like dig her claws in and really use people for whatever benefit she could.
Yeah, that's where I started losing some compassion for her because it's like if it was just him and she was just trying to like maybe she was socially awkward. I don't know. I'm trying to like in my head, not knowing again, not knowing where this story's actually going, like
Right,
trying to be a little gracious because that's how I usually watch things. I'm like, okay, I would like to see all the sides of it. How did you get here? Not just on face value. How did this happen? But
right.
so she's with Wade. She is moving in with him, but also she's like, "Hey, I'm about to inherit some money. Like I'm inheriting millions." And I gotta say, maybe he's a little bit of a gold digger, in my opinion. Like, and I have to feel like maybe the promise of money and life and security was enough for him to be like, huh. whatever. She's a little bit out there. She's cute. She's touching his pee-pee, like he's probably like, I don't care. She's cute. She's got money. She likes me. Whatever. I got no questions to ask.
Right.
So, as this story is developing, they're at a Christmas party. They're like, "Hey, we're looking at these properties now. We're going to buy this pecan farm." Um, she's just on and on. People are filming her at one point, and she's doubling down, baby.
Mhm.
Like, I have to feel like if I was out there telling some audacious ass lie, which trust me, as a young kid, you ever get caught so bad that you're like reformed? That's me. Like, I was like, oh, I fucked up. I will never fuck up again. I'm gonna be
The straight and narrow.
painfully honest
Right.
to my own detriment, but you don't have to remember a bunch of weird shit if you don't start saying weird shit. And again, I'm talking about teenage Jen. I'm not talking about adult Jen. I'm putting my own emotions on this lady and then quickly realizing, oh, I was never like that.
Hmm.
Um, And maybe I should edit all that out. I don't know. I'm over here confessing some shit.
We'll see. We'll do a playback and see.
Okay. Nah, I'll probably just leave it because whatever. Um, so right now we're at the point where they're looking at this property and it's like, well, where are they getting the money? Because she clearly doesn't have any. She keeps lying about it. So then she's like committing fraud, wire fraud. She's using fraudulent email accounts. I mean, and even at one point they said that she was using like a voice changer, like calling the realtor and pretending to be this uncle. It's like, girl, I mean, you got to give respect to the game. I'm not talking about the murders. I'm just saying, like, damn, girl, you had time.
She
You
was
had time.
very committed.
You had time, right? You committed, and then like the commitment just spiraled. And it's
Snowballed.
like, so then she's like, it seems like this real estate deal's falling through. She's talking about her uncle. He's going to wire the money. She's going to write these checks. And the real estate people, they're like, yeah, we've seen some people show up and they don't look like they have money, but they have money.
Hmm.
And, this isn't the first time we've dealt with this kind of situation, verification of funds. It's not uncommon for these people to do and say some of these behaviors. And also, you have to remember the amount of money of the first property they talked about was like, I think $4 million. And she's like, yeah, I'll pay cash. So believe it that that realtor was like, Psh, I'm about to come up on, whatever percentage Texas does. I don't know if it's 3.5% everywhere or if it's, just, whatever, but that's a lot of commission money.
Hmm.
And that's a small price to pay for a big payday. When you can just say, okay, this property is sold and yeah, I had to deal with a lunatic, but I got paid, baby. And it seemed like one of the only people in this whole entire situation was the man who was, I don't know if it was like a real estate team or if he was just like the banking part of this, but
Hmm.
he was on it. He smelled a rat right off the top. But the audacity of this lady, the way that she invented these other email accounts, and she started writing him and getting in his ass like, hey, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Like, you need to leave my client alone and like just basically do your job and shut up. And again, kind of not uncommon for some of these people to have, you know, accountants and people that'll jump your ass because you're bothering their client. It's
Yeah.
common. It is common. Um, So from there, it seems like they're kind of on the rocks. Like she shows up with a car for his mom, for Wade's mom, and she's like, "Hey, check this car out. Do you like it?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's a nice car." And she's like, "Well, I bought it for you," and leaves it in her driveway. And she just keeps like breadcrumbing these people, and then suddenly, hey, the dealership has to come pick up your car because it's got a recall. They're going to fix it for you. It's like the Grinch that stole Christmas. Like, I'm going to take this Christmas tree and fix it, and I'll bring it back good as new. Um, it was not. It was
Repossessed
repo.
or
It was the repo depot. That car was not coming back, and the mom called and found this out. So eventually around this time, my assumption is some of the things they definitely left out. It's like they must have been, having not marital problems because they weren't married, but a discord. And she's like, I'm trying to hang on to this dude. She probably didn't have anywhere to live. Um, and she's like, shit, I gotta hang on to this guy and says, hey, I'm pregnant, we're having a baby. So then you're going through the motions and all of a sudden they just go, oh yeah, I used to be her friend and she has two other kids and this bitch had a full hysterectomy. I was like, what?
right.
What?
That was
When I
my
heard
mouth
the
was
hysterectomy
agape.
part, I was like, "Oh my God." That's when I was like my parallels of feeling any empathy for her just was like boom. It went off the rails. I was like, "Wow." And then they're like her kids are never around. It's like, "Okay." So then I'm thinking, is she just going to be like, I had a miscarriage, and she starts showing up with these ultrasounds and with her and going through the pandemic. So yes, people could not go in with you. Um, I
Convenient.
what?
I said, how convenient.
How convenient. During that period of time, I was around the same pregnancy as the poor Reagan, and my ultrasounds were completely different. My husband could not go. He couldn't even go to the appointment. He couldn't even wait in the waiting room.
Wow.
Um, I couldn't take my son with me, and um, it sucked. It sucked. Like everything you had to do just all by yourself. And they wouldn't even let you in the lobby. You were all masked up and everything. And I feel like I ended up getting my ultrasound on like a flash drive, because that was the only way that my husband could actually see, like, the moving baby, not just a picture, because he had been with me for all my other appointments, or if he wasn't there, I'd even put him on speakerphone. It was not uncommon for us to do that at all. And my doctor was very accommodating, even through COVID. Um, so she's gone on Amazon, she's buying pregnancy bellies. They showed this video of her like moving her stomach, and I was like, come on, man. When you have a baby, it's it's the oddest feeling and sensation, but they're talking about her body size. It's like I'm smaller than I was, but even when I was bigger and pregnant, like when I was pregnant, dude, you could tell I was pregnant, okay? Like I have a picture of my belly and I'm in the car and my stomach was out to there. It was like almost touching the steering wheel of the car. Like
Right.
I thought my daughter was going to be a gigantic ass baby, and she was smaller than my son.
Mhm.
I just, I didn't carry very big until maybe 5 or 6 months, and then like in the eighth and ninth month, oh, I could still feel the pain in my, my internals of like. just that feeling of watching that baby, it feels different. It doesn't hurt, but it's like watching her like undulate her stomach. I'm like, hell no. Who believed that? Like, even if you never had a kid, you'd be like, did you just like eat a little extra? Like, did you have gas or something? Like, you can't tell me that at no point that this guy had any inkling to like touch her stomach, like anything, nothing. Like even if she was mad at you and you guys were fighting and sleeping in other rooms, like you never hugged or kissed her goodbye, like nothing. Like my belly would touch my husband, and I can't tell you how many times he would be like, "Oh, the baby kicked me." There was a time or two like early on in my pregnancies, where, like you're laying in bed and my husband felt the baby kick and I didn't feel it. He's like, "Oh, somebody kicked my hand." And I'm like, good for you." Um, just like, I just found it incredulous that he never once questioned anything. And like I say, I could see where this guy was kind of like counting his lucky stars, maybe. But also at some point, you have to say, like, all right, well, nothing's materializing. Like, put up or shut up. And even if you come up with a kid, it's like you don't have to maintain this relationship with her. You can still take care of your child. And if it was all that deep, maybe you should look into getting custody of that kid because she can't even take care of the two kids she already had.
Right. There's so many red flags that he just seemed to ignore. And I can understand why there's civil suits and things against him.
So getting to the day, she it's not funny. I'm just like, this girl, she could have just at any time ended this. She could have left. She could have just gotten her car and drove away. Literally. I don't know what else to say. I mean, she had been saying that her mother was behind all these weird emails and things, but it was her. And it's like, you added more to it than you needed to, I guess. And I also feel like it's like, I don't know. It was a whole mess by this point. But the day it went down, um, she's supposed to go in, maybe it was the day before, or no, it had to be that day. Anyway, she's supposed to go into the hospital because by this point she's well past her due date. And, some people were like talking shit like, oh, yeah, people don't go that far past their due date. Yeah, they do. Sure, they do. That's why the doctor tells you you have 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. You could go 2 weeks over. If you're healthy and everything's going well, you've had other kids. They have no reason to intervene, truly, unless there's some kind of an issue with you medically. I really didn't find that to be the red flag. Um, I, I don't know what to say about all that. I just can say that she was supposed to go to the hospital, apparently to be induced.
Mhm.
So that morning, Wade wakes up because the house is fucking on fire. So So they get the fire put out of the house. Don't know what happened there. You mean like
Right.
allegedly for entertainment purposes? I guess she set the house on fire, like, oh, burn down the house. Maybe we won't have to go today. That doesn't work. So then she's like calling in a bomb threat to the hospital. I was like, damn girl, again, you're doing the most. Like,
Too much.
but she's like, well, I can't go to the hospital. That's what it was. I can't go to hospital today. Um, I think I want to have a home birth. I want to give birth in the bathtub anyway. That's fine. I'm going to prepare for that. Okay. So then he gets a text message or he got a phone call from like the voice modulator, like the scream caller. But it's like, hey, I come 3 hours away with a truck full of hogs to my property. And she's like, yeah, honey, go handle that. That's too much money to pass up. I'll meet you at the hospital. So then, this is where we get back to she's driving down the highway with a baby in her pants and the placenta. And, then you find out this is when it was like, like
Mhm.
the moment of like a lightning bolt of like fear. Reagan had been friends with her. They became friends. Taylor was her wedding photographer. And then, it's like, oh, we're pregnant at the same time, pregnant twinsies. And weirdly, two of my friends here, we, as a joke, well, not a joke, because we really were trying to have more kids. The three of us were at a park with our oldest sons at that time. And we made like a teenage pregnancy pact and it was pretty funny. It's like, okay, well, I was like, we're gonna start trying to have another baby. So my friend Amanda says the same thing, and my friend Rosalie says the same thing, and we end up like shaking on it. Well, I got pregnant, Amanda got pregnant, Rosalie later had a baby, but we ended up all having girls, which was really funny, but I get it. Like, weirdly, I was pregnant with my friend at the same time too. Um, I can understand like the excitement, like, everything going on, plus COVID times and and for somebody like Reagan who was so young and she had a little girl and she had, gotten married and she was having a good life. I mean, I feel so terrible for everybody involved there. Like it's a tragedy what happened and to little baby Braxlin to be so heartlessly taken from her mother. And there was something that I was doing a little bit of follow up with, and I'm not really sure what show I heard this on, but apparently Taylor had told her like jail girlfriend some of the details. But again, you can't trust a word that comes out of Taylor's mouth.
Right.
But this detail just felt a little too real that when she took the baby from Megan, I'm sorry, Reagan, she held the baby to her and said, "Say goodbye to your mom." What a fucking bitch, dude. What a bitch. And she had been stabbed or cut over 100 times. I
Ugh.
mean, like this was a brutal, brutal crime. And she tried to research how to do a C-section. She was looking at adoptions. We didn't even get into the clinic that they knew her. They knew her social media posts because it was such a small town. Everybody knows everybody, and I get that. They were fully aware this whole time, like, she's not pregnant. We know she's not pregnant. We performed the hysterectomy here, and we're watching her, say that she's been treated. And even the nurse was invited to her gender reveal, and she didn't go. But because of HIPAA, she was not allowed to say anything. When people would question her, she would say something like, well, trust your instinct. And it's like, that's pretty much telling you everything you need to know. And if you couldn't take that and go, okay, well, they can't tell me anything, but they're saying like, if that's what you think, you should trust your judgment. Like they didn't say like, no, she wouldn't do anything like that. They were like, you probably onto something. You probably
Mhm.
know what's up. Um, so I found the juxtaposition of their HIPAA oath to the ER doctor. Again, like the way it kind of jumps around. You see the ER doctor and they're like talking to the police officers, and I'm thinking like, damn, he's being awfully free and open with her medical information. Like, did they have a court order for that? Like, anyway, he's just like walking out and he's like, yeah, it doesn't look like she had a baby. And I'm like, damn, dude, you just violated her HIPAA. Um, Not that it matters because she's a dirtbag, but I just thought it was interesting to me that, one person was like, "Oh, I can't even reveal to these people that this chick's totally lying and everything's a fraud." And then this dude's like, "Yeah, dude, she definitely had no kids. There's no baby born out of there today." So,